Lynam, the Sixers in Boston, trying to make it 3 straight, D. They've won back-to-back games, and that in itself is a feat for this team. They've got 9 wins, almost as many as all of last year. It seems that 2016, not a lot of wins, but at least was somewhat of a step in the right direction.
Certainly, this part of the 2016, meaning this season as opposed to last season, I would absolutely agree with you. They have some, they have some nice pieces, but they need some pieces also.
There's no question about that. Guard would probably be top of that list, but with what they have right now, obviously Joel has really changed a whole heck of a lot. They still got this muddled mess with the big guys, and now after Christmas, D, and after the New Year, do you anticipate hearing or seeing something change with the trio of big men, or do you think this might go on the whole season?
I think that, well, you have seen one change already, and that is the fact that he's put Ersan back in the starting lineup, and I think that's where he'll remain, as opposed to experimenting with Jaleel and Joel or Nerlens and Joel in the starting lineup. So that change has happened, and then you also saw a change in the last game. The first guy off his bench was Nerlens, and I think that will continue to be the first guy off his bench in terms of a backup big. Could they all three still be on the roster at the end of the year? Sure. I think it's very possible. I don't think it's smart, but I think it's very possible. And if I were the guy in the front office, meaning Brian Colangelo, I would not want to bring Ben Simmons back into this without having cleared that front court situation up. I think it'd be incredibly difficult for a guy who hasn't played in a while, coming into at this level for the first time, and probably playing a position that he hasn't played ever in his career. I mean, he plays with the ball, but he wasn't a point guard, and they intend to make him their point guard when he comes back.
D, you've mentioned some of the combinations that we've seen out on the floor. Do you think then we'll see less experimenting and more just trying to win ball games from here on out?
Well, it's interesting because I know Brett says he wants to win games, but now you're getting into a situation, I think I saw the other day, right now the Sixers have a 60% chance of landing one of the top 3 picks in the June draft. And that combination comes from their situation of getting the Lakers pick, which is top 3 protected, their own pick, and their ability to swap with Sacramento if, in fact, that was beneficial to them. But 60% is pretty high, and it's a draft that we know heavy on guards, which we already identified as certainly a problem for them. So do they want to win how many games? I don't know. I don't know what that number is, but I think that you'll see, like, for instance, I was looking at Miami. Justin Winslow is done for the season. I think you'll see teams that have an opportunity to be in that lottery err on the side of caution of anybody who's hurt. You probably won't see them come back, and that they will all be playing for the white ping pong ball.
What did, by proxy, Sam morph into Colangelo's bloodstream?
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that they like their situation of being able to be back in that lottery, and they have different ways of doing it. If they were in the top 3 again, and like I said, it was 60%, I mean, that's 4 years in a row.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, you saw what Atlanta did with Korver. You hear Millsap's name, and you wonder if around the league, if teams are now looking at Philly. Minnesota's on TV, it seems like, all the time. The Lakers if they're looking around and saying, you know what, I'm a little envious of what these teams have. Do I want to be muddled in this middle, or should I just start dismantling now? I mean, is that something that we might see more of now around the league?
Well, I mean, we see that in baseball, do we not?
All the time. I'm surprised more teams don't do it in basketball, that more teams try to get the 8th seed, which is it's sad to say, but it's just not a good move for the team a lot of times.
Right, but if we end up where now it becomes that everybody who is not Cleveland or Golden State attempts to do it this way, you're going to have a really bad league, and that wouldn't be good either. So I don't know. I think it's interesting. I mean, in Atlanta's situation, I do believe both Korver and Millsap are in the final year of contracts, so that does make sense for them and the team that's acquiring them. If in fact you're a team that thinks that, like Cleveland, for me, that's a great move by them to have a Corver, and they have a really, really good, shot of going back and doing it again. So I get that. Unloading, yeah, maybe you are. If you don't feel like you have the pieces to build around, I guess that's part of it. I mean, but let's look at the Sixers situation. I mean, Joel Embiid is the piece you're building around. Ben Simmons, you do believe, is the guy alongside him. And I think you look at Dario and say, that guy has a role on this team. It may be a six-man role, but they still have so far to go, and we're in the fourth year of what this team has been trying to do, and they have 9 wins.
Well, Brett mentioned the other night. I thought it was something interesting because he threw Oklahoma City's model, and he mentioned that they had Harden and Westbrook and Durant, and they had 20 wins, and then boom, they went to 50. Like they just in
Right.
1 year, that talent just kind of all popped together, and they went from 20 to 50. Do you feel like this team is going to be that kind of team where they just get Embiid and Simmons and somebody else, and then boom, they're just going to be a down-rotten team to all of a sudden a perennial, long-term winner?
I don't think it's going to 50 next year. That's just my opinion. I see what he's saying. I think the problem for me is that point guard is so essential in this league, and to still not have fix that. Ben is a point forward. That is not a point guard. And you can have the ball in his hands a lot, but I think this league is driven by point guard play, and we're seeing, obviously, that big men being able to stretch the floor like the DeMarcus Cousins, the Joel Embiid, mobile big men with a wide array of talent and how they score. So you have half of that, but you still have to go and get a point guard, and I think it's the hardest position to easily acclimate yourself at the next level. For instance, I think they will get a point guard in this upcoming draft. How quickly he's the guy and good at it, I don't know.
Dee, you mentioned Ben Simmons. I know he's with the team on this road trip. How much do we read into that, and does that give us any insight into his timetable for his return?
Well, I'm glad he's on the trip. It's only a 2-day trip, and it's fairly close, so I get that part of it. I still don't think we'll see him until after the All-Star because it's January 6th. He's not practicing yet. And when he does practice, how long would you practice him before you throw him out into a game? I mean, I think it would be, I'd say a couple weeks. I wouldn't just throw the guy out there. Maybe I'm wrong, but I wouldn't. I'm not going to read anything into it until somebody says to me he participated fully in practice.
Dee, this league is built around accumulating stars, it seems like. How many stars can you get your hands on? Do you feel with confidence that the Sixers have at least 2, which is more than a lot of teams in this league have?
I feel confident they have 1 that I know of, and I feel confident that they believe they have 2. But until I see Ben play, I can't call that a star until until it reveals itself. So I think in this league, I used to say you need 2.5 because that's what I felt Miami did it with. Maybe it's going more towards it better be 3 because Golden State has 4. So
it's crazy.
I would say it is. Cleveland, I'm even reading today where like LeBron is saying, he believes they need a point guard, and that if you look in the NFL, everybody has 3 quarterbacks, and if something goes down, like that insurance is necessary. And I just think it's interesting to see that, a guy like LeBron can identify what it takes to, be at the elite level to be able to even have a chance. So I think in that regard, the Sixers, like I said, they have pieces that they still need to get to. I'd like to see them be Oklahoma City, though, go from what I said they would win 22 this year. I bet I'm going to be somewhere in the ballpark.
Yeah, I wouldn't think you're far off there. But has Joel exceeded what you thought what he would be?
I absolutely. One, anybody who told you that they knew he could shoot jumpers like he does, they're lying to you because that he did not have at Kansas. He did shoot shots like that over the last 2 years, but there's not a defender on him. And to be able to then put that into, action as quickly as he has, for him to make the free throws that he has. I mean, he's made 124 free throws already. No other rookie has 100. And I think over his last 11 games, maybe he's shooting at a clip of 84.4% at the line, at the foul line. So the only thing I'm a little surprised is that his rebounding is not higher than it's been. Now I get it that he only plays, 28 minutes at this point, but I think a lot of that is because he is away from the basket, certainly at the offensive end, because he likes to hang around, at the high post area or even the arc. But I am a little surprised that he doesn't have more rebounds.
Well, it should be interesting tonight to see if, of course, Joel looks like he's probable now. A little sickness, a little bug. Did do the shoot around. 7:30 tonight here on 97.3 ESPN as the Sixers take on the Celtics. Comcast Sportsnet, D. Lynam and the crew will have all the coverage for you. And, D, of course, we always appreciate the time.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.